a rainy Thursday afternoon in suburban Georgia, the clinking of silverware and soft jazz melodies filled the air inside Willow's Hearth, a quaint, wood-paneled restaurant nestled beneath a canopy of century-old oaks. Regulars called it the quiet place with the loud flavors. But that day, the silence would be shattered by something no one saw coming. Behind the counter, Amber Lee, the head waitress in her late 20s with honey-blonde curls and a polished southern charm, kept her eagle eyes trained on every table. To the regulars, she was sugar-coated smiles and quick refills, but the new hires whispered about how quickly that smile could harden into suspicion. Amber didn't just serve, she judged, and today, something about one particular table had her whispering into her headset before dessert menus were even handed out. At table 9 sat Malik Carter, a tall, broad-shouldered software engineer from Atlanta, wearing a simple navy sweater and a calm dignity that made people either respect him or resent him, sometimes both. Across from him, his wife Danielle, radiant in a soft yellow sundress, tried to keep their 2 young children entertained with coloring books and napkin origami. The Carters were well-dressed, polite, and quiet, but Amber's eyes narrowed. With every passing second, they didn't place an order. She claimed it was something off about them, something unsettling, though she couldn't quite explain what. Unexplained events, she later said to the manager. It was just a feeling. And so, without warning or conversation, Amber called security. The moment the uniformed guard entered the dining area, you could almost hear the heartbeat of the restaurant stop. Glasses froze mid-air. Conversations died mid-sentence. "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to come with me," the guard said to Malik in a tone that was oddly rehearsed, almost like he'd done this before. Danielle gripped her husband's arm, her eyes wide with disbelief, their kids watching with confused silence, too young to understand what was happening, but old enough to feel the cold wall of judgment crashing down. Malik didn't argue. He simply asked, "Why?" And that's when Graham Halloway, the restaurant's elusive owner, stepped out from the back. No one saw him coming. He rarely made appearances during lunch shifts, preferring to stay behind the scenes. But today, he walked out in his tailored gray vest and cuffed sleeves, hair slicked back like a man from another era, and surveyed the situation with sharp, calculating eyes. A man of very few public words, Graham was known for his discretion, his secrets, and his near-mythical presence in the business community. He built Willow's Hearth from scratch, yes, but there were whispers that the real reason he kept a low profile was because of a dark secret from his past. That secret, many believed, had something to do with a family mystery. He never spoke about a chapter of his life buried so deeply that even longtime employees didn't dare bring it up. But when Graham's gaze fell upon the Carters, particularly Malik, his expression changed. The color drained from his face. For a split second, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. "What the hell are you doing?" Graham asked Amber. Not loudly, not softly, just enough to silence the room entirely. Amber blinked. I thought they looked suspicious. They weren't ordering. I was just following protocol." But Graham didn't respond to her. His eyes never left Malik's face. Then, in a voice that trembled with something more than just confusion, he asked, "Where did you say you were from again?" Malik's voice was firm but polite. "Atlanta." "Why?" Graham took a step closer, eyes flickering as though connecting invisible dots. He opened his mouth, then hesitated, something behind his sharp exterior unraveling just slightly. "Your last name, it's Carter?" "Yes," Malik replied, watching him now just as closely. Graham swallowed. "Your father, he wouldn't happen to be Thomas Carter, would he?" A pause. Danielle's fingers tensed around Malik's hand. "Why does that matter?" And then came the moment that turned an uncomfortable misunderstanding into a wildfire of unexpected twists and revelations no one in that restaurant could have predicted. Because what Graham said next didn't just stun the dining room, it rewrote everything they thought they knew about the man who owned it, the man who now looked like he was seconds away from falling apart. I think I think you're my brother's son." The room held its breath, but Malik didn't. He slowly stood, his voice calm but his eyes burning with something deeper than shock. "Then why," he said, "did your waitress try to have us thrown out?" And in that instant, everything fractured, because it wasn't just about one family being profiled. It was about a hidden legacy, a man who buried the truth, and a confrontation that would unravel the very fabric of everything this restaurant and this family had built. But the real question, the one no one dared to say out loud just yet, was this. If Graham Holloway was telling the truth, why had he been hiding Malik's family all these years? And what else? Had he hidden? For a moment, time stood still inside Willow's hearth. You could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator behind the bar, the clink of ice melting in untouched glasses, and the rustling of napkins clenched by anxious fingers. Graham Holloway stood like a statue in front of Malik Carter, pale as frost. With eyes that betrayed more than just recognition, they held guilt and fear. Malik didn't sit back down. Neither did Danielle. Their kids, sensing the weight in the air, stopped coloring and looked between the grown-ups, confused and silent. Amber shifted uncomfortably, her usual confidence slipping as she glanced nervously at the manager's stand, where her co-workers stood watching. Brian, the assistant manager with the neatly trimmed beard and corporate politeness, and Nina, the shy high school hostess with earbuds tucked into her sleeve and dreams of escaping this small town someday. Graham inhaled deeply, like someone bracing against a storm. "Let's go to my office," he said, voice quieter now, less authoritative and more personal. "Please." Danielle stepped forward, her arm wrapped protectively around Malik's. "We're not going anywhere until you explain what you meant." "Your brother's son. What are you talking about?" Graham blinked. "It's not something I can explain here, not in front of everyone." But it was already too late for privacy. The entire restaurant was watching. Whispers flew from table to table. Fragments of "he's related to the owner?" And "did that waitress really call security?" peppered with sharper phrases like racial profiling and hidden family drama. Malik's voice was level but firm. "You had your employee treat us like criminals. My children were terrified. You owe us more than a private conversation." The tension cracked like dry wood. Graham rubbed a hand over his face and gestured toward the manager's hallway near the kitchen. "Brian, watch the floor," he muttered. "Amber, I want you off the clock, now." Amber's mouth opened in protest. "I didn't mean anything by it. I said now." Graham barked louder than he intended, the weight of decades crashing into a single moment. Amber flinched and stormed off toward the back, grabbing her purse with trembling hands. Malik exchanged a glance with Danielle, then nodded. "Let's hear what you have to say." Inside the dimly lit office, past faded family photos and plaques with the restaurant's old awards, Graham closed the door and leaned against it, as if unsure whether he wanted to escape or come clean. The small room smelled faintly of paper, cologne, and secrets. He gestured to the two leather chairs in front of his desk. "Sit, please." Danielle sat down slowly. Malik remained standing. "Start talking." Graham folded his hands and stared at them for a long moment before speaking. "My brother's name was Thomas Holloway. He left this town 30 years ago after a fallout with my father. Our father. I hadn't seen him since. I didn't even know he was going by Carter now. Until I heard your name." Malik's voice hardened. "My dad never talked about you or your family." "I'm not surprised," Graham said. "There were reasons. My father didn't approve of Thomas marrying your mother." Danielle's eyes narrowed. "Because she was black?" Graham hesitated, his voice dropping. "Yes." The word sat heavy in the air. "Ugly." "True. There were things my father believed, things I wish I had fought harder against. But I was young and too afraid to go against him. Thomas was different. He left. He started over. He changed his name. I thought he cut all ties for good." Malik's voice cracked, just a little. "He died 2 years ago. Heart attack. Graham looked gutted. I didn't know, God. I didn't know. Danielle, eyes still guarded, asked the question that burned hottest. So why didn't you ever try to find him? To make things right? I tried, Graham said. I sent letters, dozens of them. I called numbers that no longer worked. I even hired someone once, but nothing ever came of it. After a while, I assumed he didn't want to be found. Malik leaned forward now, the fire in his chest beginning to burn through the numbness. And then today, you see me walk in with my family, and you see him in me, and it rattles you. I saw your face, Graham admitted. Your eyes, they're his. And when you said your last name, it hit me like a freight train. Danielle whispered, This is unreal. Graham looked at the two of them, then reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small, tattered photo. He slid it across the desk. In it, two young boys stood beside a vintage truck, one with a baseball glove, the other with a paintbrush. One of them was unmistakably Graham. The other, younger, darker-skinned but with familiar eyes, stood defiantly with a gap-toothed smile. Malik's breath caught. That's him. My brother, Graham said. Your father. And the best man I ever knew. The room fell silent again. Danielle looked to Malik. What do we do with this? But before anyone could answer, there was a loud knock at the door. Brian stepped in, clearly flustered. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation out front. Graham stood quickly. What kind of situation? Brian hesitated. It's someone claiming to be a reporter. Says he got a tip about a racial discrimination incident here. He's talking to customers, wants to speak to management and the family involved. Malik's heart dropped. Someone called the press? Danielle shook her head. We didn't. We just wanted lunch. Brian added. And that's not all. Amber's outside too. She's crying, loudly, saying she was just doing her job and she's being unfairly punished. Graham sighed heavily, the weight of years catching up all at once. This is spiraling. Malik didn't blink. Maybe it should. Maybe. People need to know what happens when someone like my family walks into a place like this and gets treated like we're dangerous just for existing. Graham turned slowly, his voice low. And maybe they should know that this place was built on hidden secrets, on a dark past that I never had the courage to face, until today. The words hung in the air like a thundercloud ready to burst, but Malik's eyes weren't on Graham anymore. They were staring past him, through the window, where a new figure had just stepped out of a car and was walking toward the entrance. It was an older man in a crisp charcoal suit, hair grayed, eyes sharp. Danielle's brow furrowed. Who is that? Brian answered quietly. I don't know, but he asked for Malik by name. Graham's face went ghostly pale. I do, he whispered. That's Gerald King. He used to work for our father. He handled family affairs. Danielle's voice wavered. What kind of family affairs? Graham didn't respond. Malik turned to him slowly, the tension in his chest twisting into something colder. What exactly was our grandfather trying to hide? He asked. Graham met his gaze, and what he said next would crack open a truth no one was ready for. Your father didn't just leave this family because of a marriage. He left because he uncovered something that got people killed. And just like that, the mystery stopped being about lunch, about profiling, or even about long-lost relatives. It became something far more dangerous. What did Thomas Carter uncover that someone still wanted buried? And more importantly, were Malik and his family now in danger because of it? The door to Graham's office swung open again, this time pushed by the sharp knock of Gerald King himself. The older man stepped inside with an unnerving calm, his eyes flickering briefly toward Malik and Danielle, before settling on Graham. There was a chill in the air, almost unnatural, as if the room had shifted into a different dimension, one heavy with secrets too long buried. Gerald's voice was low, gravelly, but carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. You don't know the half of it yet, Graham, or you wouldn't be sitting here pretending you're in control. Graham's Jaw tightened. Then tell us. Gerald's gaze locked on Malik. You're not just your father's son, Malik. You're a piece of something bigger. A family legacy tied to forces you can't begin to understand. Malik straightened, anger and confusion swirling inside. Him. What are you talking about? Legacy? What does that even mean? Gerald's lips curled into a faint, grim smile. Thomas Carter stumbled onto the truth about the Holloway estate. A truth your grandfather wanted erased. Dark secrets wrapped in blood and power, guarded by more than just family loyalty. Danielle stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension. Are you saying there's something supernatural involved? Because this is sounding less like family drama and more like a nightmare. Gerald's eyes flickered again, shadows deepening under his brow. You don't believe it? That's what makes it so dangerous. The estate holds an ancient relic, a source of power that's been protected for centuries. Thomas found it and wanted to expose what it was. That's why he disappeared. That's why he died. Graham's face drained of color. Relic? What relic? Before Gerald could answer, the lights flickered violently, plunging the office into brief darkness. When the fluorescent hum returned, the photo of the two boys on Graham's desk seemed to shimmer unnaturally, edges blurring like a fading memory. A cold draft swept through the room, carrying a whisper that no one could place. Half a word, a warning. Malik shivered. What was that? Gerald's voice dropped to a whisper. Danger lurking, Malik. The family's past isn't just painful, it's cursed. Suddenly, the office door slammed shut behind them, locking with a click that echoed in the stunned silence. Danielle's eyes darted to the window, now fogged inexplicably from the inside. We're trapped. Graham lunged for the door handle, it wouldn't budge. This isn't possible. Amber's voice cracked from beyond the door. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Please, someone. Brian's muffled apologies followed. Amber's in tears. She says she's scared. Malik clenched his fists, fighting the emotional turmoil twisting inside him. We're all scared. But this is something else. Gerald stepped closer to the desk, pulling from his coat pocket an old leather-bound journal stained with years of dust and secrets. This belonged to your grandfather. It's the key to understanding what Thomas found, and what we're now dealing with. Danielle reached out, trembling fingers brushing the journal's cracked cover. What's inside? Gerald hesitated, then said, Shocking revelations about the Holloway bloodline, about sacrifices made, about powers granted, and curses born. It speaks of a family pact sealed long ago, a pact that Thomas wanted to break. Malik's heart pounded. Why would he want to break it? Because the pact demands a price, Gerald said grimly. A price paid in blood, generation after generation. And now, with Thomas gone, that price may fall to you. The room seemed to close in on them. Shadows stretched longer, the weight of the unfolding mystery pressing down with every breath. Danielle's voice was barely audible. Is this why you called security on us? To keep us from finding out? Graham looked away, guilt carving lines into his face. It was supposed to be a mistake, a precaution. I never wanted this to happen. Malik stood, determination blazing in his eyes. Mistake or not, we're caught in something we don't understand. And if this family secret is as dark as you, say then we need to uncover it before it destroys us all. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness again. When the lights flickered back on, the journal lay open on the desk, pages turning by themselves to a chapter titled, The Bloodline's Curse, Awakening the Guardian. And beneath the heading, a chilling phrase scrawled in fading ink. He who awakens the past shall face the shadow that never dies. A cold silence swallowed them all. Gerald's voice broke it, barely a whisper. The shadow is coming and it's hungry. The mystery deepens, danger lurking closer than ever, as the Holloway family's dark past claws its way into the present, threatening to shatter everything Malik, Danielle, and their children hold dear. What ancient power has Thomas Carter unearthed? And will Malik be able to protect his family from a legacy steeped in curses, secrets, and shadows? The answers lie ahead, in the heart of the unfolding mystery, where every revelation brings more questions and every step forward leads deeper into emotional turmoil. The thick, suffocating air inside the Holloway estate's old library wrapped around Malik and Danielle like a tangible force, pressing in with every measured breath. Dust particles danced eerily in the dim light of the flickering chandelier overhead, casting ghostly shadows that seemed to twist and writhe on the time-worn bookshelves lining the walls. Outside, the relentless wind howled like a distant lament, as if the house itself mourned the dark secrets locked within its very bones. Malik's hands trembled as he flipped through the brittle pages of the journal they had recovered, each word etched in hurried scrawl, soaked in despair and warning. The dim glow revealed passages about forbidden rituals, a blood pact sealed under a moonless sky, and cryptic references to a guardian meant to protect the family lineage at any cost. But it wasn't until they reached the section marked with a blood-red stain that the atmosphere shifted, thickening with an almost tangible menace. Danielle's voice barely broke the silence, sharp with disbelief. "Malik, this can't be real." Malik's eyes narrowed. "What is it?" She pointed at a faded photograph taped to the page. It showed Thomas Carter, Malik's father, with a woman neither of them recognized, their faces serious, almost haunted. The accompanying note chilled them both. "The pact's true sacrifice lies not in blood but betrayal. Beware the wolf in kin's clothing." Before Malik could respond, a loud crash echoed from the hallway outside. The library. Door slammed open violently, revealing Graham's pale, sweat-streaked face. "We need to talk. Now." His voice was low but urgent, thick with high tension that sent a ripple through the room. They followed him down the corridor, the mansion's dark corridors closing in with every step. Graham led them to a hidden room behind a false wall, a small chamber lit only by a single swinging lantern. Inside, a wall was covered with newspaper clippings, photos, and cryptic symbols connected by red string, a family mystery laid bare in chaotic detail. At the center was a shocking revelation, a photo of Amber, Malik's sister, standing next to Gerald King in what looked like a clandestine meeting. The caption read, "Unexplained meetings raise suspicions." Malik's breath hitched. "Amber, why would she be meeting with Gerald?" Graham swallowed hard. "Because she's not who you think she is." The room fell silent as the weight of those words hung heavy. Malik's mind raced, memories twisting like a storm. Amber's distant behavior, her sudden disappearances, her fearful glances whenever the family pact was mentioned. Danielle stepped forward, her eyes scanning the room. "This is an unexpected betrayal. Amber's been hiding something, maybe even working against the family." Before Malik could speak, the lantern flickered violently, plunging them into shadows. A sudden, cold gust swept the room, and the symbols on the wall seemed to pulse with an eerie glow. From the darkness came a whisper, soft, serpentine, almost mocking. "You think you understand. You know nothing." Malik's heart pounded. "Who's there?" No answer, only silence, heavy and suffocating. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoed from the hallway. "Amber isn't just betraying you. She's protecting something far worse than you imagined." Malik and Danielle exchanged a glance filled with dread. The family drama they thought they understood was unraveling into a far deeper, more sinister mystery. As they turned to leave the hidden chamber, the door slammed shut, locking with a sound like a death knell. In the dim lantern light, a final message appeared scrawled on the wall where the paper once blank. "The Shadow's wolf wears a familiar face." The chilling truth was clear. The darkness within their family was closer, more personal, and more dangerous than any of them could have ever guessed. And as the storm outside raged, so did the storm within. The story hurtling toward a cliffhanger, moment that would change everything. Who could they trust when betrayal came from blood? What dark secrets still lurked, waiting to be uncovered? And how far would Malik go to protect his family from the shadows closing in? The answers were buried in the darkness, waiting to be revealed in the next terrifying turn of this unfolding mystery. The heavy thud of the locked door echoed in the cramped chamber, a grim reminder that escape was no longer an option. Malik's chest tightened with rising tension, each breath shallow as the weight of betrayal and hidden dangers pressed down on him like a relentless tide. Danielle stood close, her eyes scanning every shadow, every flicker of movement, as if the darkness itself might spring to life. "This changes everything," Malik finally said, voice rough but resolute. "Amber's not just a sister gone rogue. She's wrapped up in something dangerous, something connected to that ancient pact." Danielle's jaw clenched. "And whatever it is, it's growing stronger. The way those symbols pulsed, like a heartbeat. The darkness isn't just a story anymore. It's real." Outside, the storm's fury intensified, rain lashing the mansion's windows with wild desperation, mirroring the turmoil inside. Lightning flashed, illuminating the sinister web of clippings and strings on the wall, a visual map of secrets that had been buried far too long. Graham broke the heavy silence, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and determination. "We can't trust Amber, but that doesn't mean she's lost. There's something forcing her hand, something worse than just family secrets." Malik's eyes darkened. "If Amber's caught in this, then the danger grows. Not just for us, but for everyone we care about. We're not just fighting a family mystery anymore. We're fighting a legacy of betrayal, curses and shadows that want to consume us all." Danielle nodded, her fingers tightening around Malik's arm. "We need to find Amber before it's too late, before she's lost to the darkness completely." As they strategized, the air grew colder, the room seeming to shrink with an invisible pressure. Suddenly, a faint scratching noise came from the vent above, a subtle, almost imperceptible reminder that they were not alone. Malik glanced up sharply. "Did you hear that?" Before anyone could answer, a whisper slithered through the chamber, barely audible but chilling. "The past never forgets, and it always demands payment." Emotional conflict churned inside Malik, between fear for his sister, anger at the unfolding betrayal, and a fierce protective instinct that refused to yield. Danielle's steady presence was his anchor, but even she could not mask the growing dread in her eyes. "We have to move," Malik said, pushing away from the wall. "Every second we waste, the mystery unravels further, and not in our favor." Graham led the way, revealing a hidden passage behind the bookcase, a narrow, twisting stairwell that descended into darkness. With only a flickering flashlight, they stepped cautiously into the unknown, each footfall echoing like a countdown toward an uncertain fate. The air grew damp and thick with the scent of earth and forgotten things, as if the mansion itself was breathing its secrets into their lungs. Shadows clung to the walls, seeming to reach out with spectral fingers, urging them deeper into the heart of the family's dark past. As they descended, Malik's mind raced with the implications of Amber's betrayal and the looming threat that now stalked their every step. The stakes were higher than ever. Lives hung in the balance, and the line between friend and foe blurred into a shadowy maze. With every turn, every whispered secret, the danger grew, threatening to engulf them, all in a nightmare born from blood, lies, and the unforgiving past. Would Malik and his allies uncover the truth in time? Or would the shadows claim them, one by one, as the family mystery spiraled out of control? The mansion held its breath, waiting to reveal the next cruel twist in this unfolding tale of dark secrets, emotional conflict, and relentless danger. The narrow stairwell suddenly opened into a cavernous underground chamber, lit by flickering torches that cast jittery shadows across the damp stone walls. Malik's heart hammered in his chest. The moment of reckoning was upon them. This was the final showdown, the place where the ultimate truth would be unearthed, or where the darkness would claim them all. Ahead, Amber stood alone by an ancient altar carved with the same cryptic symbols from the journal. Her eyes, once warm and familiar, were clouded with a storm of conflicting emotions, fear, guilt, and a desperate resolve. Between them lay a pool of crimson liquid shimmering under the torchlight, pulsating as if alive. "Amber," Malik called, voice raw but steady. "Why? Why betray us? Why get tangled in this nightmare?" Her voice trembled, thick with emotional turmoil. You don't understand. I never wanted this. I'm trying to stop it. This pact, it's more than just family history. It's a curse that's tearing us apart. But the only way to break it is to make the ultimate sacrifice. Danielle's grip on Malik's arm tightened. What sacrifice? Amber glanced at the altar, then back at Malik. It requires someone to surrender their bloodline to the shadows, to seal the curse forever. I volunteered to protect you all, but the darkness is stronger than I imagined. If I fail... Suddenly the ground shook violently, dust cascading from the ceiling. The chamber's ancient stones groaned as unseen forces stirred, danger reaching peak intensity. Shadows flickered and stretched, coalescing into a swirling vortex of dark energy that threatened to engulf them. Now! Amber shouted, breaking the tension. She lunged toward the altar, clutching a silver dagger etched with runes. Malik and Danielle followed. The final moments a frantic blur of movement and shouted commands. Malik grabbed Amber's wrist just as she was about to plunge the blade into her palm. Wait, there has to be another way. Amber's eyes locked, with his fierce and desperate. There isn't. This is the family's burden. It falls to us to end it. Before Malik could protest, the shadows surged forward, clawing at them with icy fingers. Danielle screamed, pulling Malik back as Amber pressed the blade into her palm. A searing light burst from the altar, washing over the chamber with blinding intensity. When the light faded, the shadows had vanished, replaced by a heavy silence. Amber collapsed, exhausted, but alive. The curse was broken. The family's dark legacy finally sealed. Malik knelt beside her, voice thick with relief and awe. You saved us all. Amber managed a weak smile. We saved each other. In the quiet aftermath, as dawn's soft glow crept through the mansion's windows, the family gathered in the main hall. The weight of the past lingered, but so did a newfound hope. Graham, once a wary outsider, now stood firmly beside Malik and Danielle, united by the trials they had faced. This mystery nearly destroyed us, he said, but it also showed us the strength in facing darkness together. Malik looked around at the faces of those he loved, changed, scarred, but unbroken. We've learned hard lessons about trust, sacrifice, and the shadows that lurk within us all. But more than that, we've found hope. Danielle smiled softly. Our family may never be perfect, but we're stronger for what we endured. Amber reached out, her hand resting on Malik's. This isn't the end. It's a beginning. For healing, for truth, and for light. As the sun rose higher, bathing the mansion in warm golden light, Malik felt the weight of the darkness lift. The family's mystery had unraveled, but more importantly, they had grown into something resilient, unbreakable. The moving conclusion echoed in his heart. Even in the darkest shadows, hope could shine through. And sometimes the greatest battles are fought not against enemies without, but the fears and secrets within. The story closed not with finality, but with the promise of new chapters, of courage, redemption, and the enduring power of family. And, as the mansion stood tall beneath the morning sky, one truth remained clear. No matter what shadows come, they would face them together.